This is Board Game Rules Explained. I'm Luke and we'll be explaining the Settlers of Catan. The goal of the game is to get 10 points by building cities, settlements, and then there's some special points you can get, and as well as some points through dev cards. This is a starting board we constructed. You can just randomly place out all the tiles and the numbers. When I construct a board, I like to make sure that no two red numbers are next to each other, otherwise I think it's unbalanced. In the instruction manual, you'll see that there is a default balanced game board that has the hexagons laid out in a certain way, as well as the number tiles laid out in a certain way. And you'll notice that the letters at the top of the numbers correspond to how you lay out the default board. Hexagons on here of different types. Each type represents a different resource. This is grain, sheep, wood, ore, and brick. And to symbolize a resource that you own, you use a card. This is grain, and then there's one for each kind: sheep, brick, ore, and wood. Now, in this game, you are going to build settlements in the corners of these hexagons in order to acquire the resources. So when you have a settlement on one of these corners, you can acquire these three resources. And what these numbers on them mean is when that number is rolled, you get that resource. So if the dice are rolled and you roll a 5, you get a brick because you have a settlement on the brick and a 5 was rolled. If you have a city on that location and a 9 was rolled, you have a city there, you get 2 of those, so you'd get 2 grain. Now you can combine those, so let's say you look like this and you have a city and a settlement on there and a 9 is rolled, you get both resources for both. You get 2 for the city, 1 for the settlement, that is 3 resources. All settlements must be built 2 away from you cannot build a settlement next to another settlement. So this is illegal. You always have to have 2 away, like so. And that includes your opponents. So if your opponent was located right here, and that means you can't build right there because it's 1 away. You'd have to continue building on. All settlements and cities must be connected by roads, except for the first ones you place down in the beginning of the game. Roads cannot be built through other settlements, so if the game board looks like this, you cannot continue building on this way because you cannot build through the settlement. If the game board looks like this, however, like so, red can still place one right here as there is no settlement within 2 locations of that. Only 1 road can be placed along each edge, so this is illegal. You cannot place a red next to a white. Cities replace settlements, so when you pay to build a city, it will replace a settlement. Once you pick a starting player, that person gets to place a settlement and road anywhere on the map that they desire. So red can just go ahead and pick any place he wants to put down their settlement and a road, and then it goes around clockwise to all the rest of the players placing their settlements. These are just random chosen spots. And then it goes back the other way. So since blue went last putting the first one down, they now get to go first putting the second one down. So they can place one maybe right here and a road, and then they get the resources for the second location they put down. So since this is on a ore, wood, and brick, they get to collect an ore, wood, and brick from the bank. And this continues on, so next white would get to place a location down, and then collect the resources, and finally red would get to place a second location. And then red gets to start the game. Your turn consists of 3 steps. You roll the dice and gather the resources based on what that number was, or you move the robber. The second step is trading, and then the third step is building. The dice are rolled, you get resources. You will have those resources in your hand. You can build cities, settlements, and roads, and dev cards. Dev cards are these cards down here. They have the description on the card when you read them, but just to let you know, there is a card that's worth a point. There's a card that gives you 2 resources of your choice. There's a card that lets you build 2 roads, that one, and then there is a card that lets you take all of one type of resource. You can monopoly all of, say, wood, and then everybody in the game has to give you all of their wood that they have in their hand. And then there's a soldier card which lets you move the robber, which I haven't explained yet. Okay, so on the note of the robber, you'll notice that there is no 7 on this board. The robber starts off in the desert. The first thing that happens when somebody rolls a 7 is everybody has to count their cards, and if they have more than 7, they have to lose half of them. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards in my hand. That means you round down, so I lose 4 cards. I get to pick which 4 cards I discard. I just lose half of them rounding down. Once that's done, the person who rolled the 7 gets to move the robber, and they get to place it on another hexagon. They always have to move it from where it was, and they place it somewhere. So if you place it on this location, that means that this tile no longer produces resources. So if a 4 is rolled, this city and this settlement do not make anything. Additionally, when you place that there, you get to steal a card from the person who has 1 card from the person who has a settlement or city there. So let's say this is Red's hand and they only have 1 card, I can just take that card. Now if you place something like right here, where there's both a blue and a red tile, or both a blue and a red settlement / city, then you only have to pick 1. So you can either choose to take a card from blue or you can take a card from red. And then once that is done, you can proceed with the normal trade build part of your turn. When it's your turn, you're allowed to trade with other players. Let's say you have some number of cards in your hand and you're looking at your building cost card and you realize that you need something like brick. So you can offer a card in your hand for somebody else's brick. You can offer, I will trade somebody 2 wood for your brick. Or whatever else you want to offer them. You can also trade into the bank. If you have 4 of the same kind of card, like this is 4 wood, you can trade that into the bank for 1 resource of your choice. If you are on a port, which looks like one of these, you can also trade in with special rules. So if you have a settlement on this 3-to-1 port, that means you can trade in 3 of one kind of resource, like 3 wood, for 1 card of your choice from the bank. If you're on a specialty port, such as this sheep port, you can then trade in 2 sheep for 1 resource of your choice. Now, you'll remember that the turn order goes roll a dice, trade, and then build. Whether or not you choose to strictly follow that rule is up to y'all, but I think there is one time where it's important, and that is on the ports. So as you build this onto the port, the trade phase of your turn is already gone, so I don't think it's okay to use this 3-to-1 port on the turn that you built the settlement. Only the current player can trade cards. If it's not your turn, you can only trade with the person whose turn it is. When you play your 3rd soldier card, you play 3 of these guys on your after so many turns. There is a special bonus called Largest Army, which is this card, and it's worth 2 points. You can lose this card if somebody plays more soldier cards than you, then they then have those 2 points. If there's a tie, then you get to keep it, or the person who already had it gets to keep it. When you've placed your 5th road, you're eligible to receive the largest or the longest road card. It is worth 2 points, just like largest army. You have it so long as you have the longest road, and if there is a tie, then the person who already had longest road gets to keep the longest road card. Now, so right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 roads. If you have it looking like this is still worth 6 roads, as it's not part of one long straight road. So right there, that's still just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one does not count. If somebody comes in, let's say blue is building a round like this, and they place their roads, you'll notice that right here is still a valid place to build. So blue can place a settlement right there, and now this road is cut in half, and you'll see there's only 3 roads in each segment. You no longer have the longest road because you only have a road of 3 length. On your turn, you're allowed to build as many dev cards as you want. However, you can only play 1 per turn. You can't build dev cards in the turn that you build them on, but there is one exception, which is victory cards. A victory card can be played on the turn you build it on, and you can play multiple of them in 1 turn.